Hey everyone, I'm back again with yet another interesting story. And today's story is about Gautam Buddha. One day, Gautam Buddha was walking towards his disciples and he was carrying a silk handkerchief in his hand. Thousands of disciples had gathered for the sermon and they were totally surprised to see something unusual in Buddha's hand. Buddha asked them, "What do you think is this?" They all unanimously answered, "It's a beautiful silk handkerchief, Buddha." Then Buddha tied knots around the handkerchief, not one but five knots. And then he asked, "What do you think is this?" The disciples again answered, "It is the same handkerchief, yet it is different now because it has knots." Buddha said, "This is what I want you to understand. You are all Buddha, but you are unable to realize and see the silk smooth fabric within because you all have knots. I am the handkerchief without knots. So untie your knots." Then he started pulling the handkerchief from both ends and he said, "Do you think this will untie the knots?" One of the monks replied, "No, it will actually tighten them." So Buddha laughed and said, "Then why do you pull? Why do you put in so much effort to untie your knots? When you have a problem, when you have situations in life, you put in a lot of effort and in fact add to the confusion." Then Buddha said, "What should I do to untie the knots on this handkerchief?" Another monk answered, "You need to get the handkerchief close to you, observe how the knots are formed, and this will help you to undo the knot. You can easily open it because now you know how the knot is formed." Buddha said, "Exactly. To untie your knots, you got to be mindful. You got to look at them carefully, understand how they are formed in silence, and this will help you to untie your knots." With this, the sermon ended. And the lesson what Buddha told his disciple was, "I want you to meditate on your knots and untie them and become the silk handkerchief." If we have to understand this lesson from Buddha, it's very simple. Let's take an example. If you have a boss who's totally demanding and he has unusual demands, you generally react with a lot of stress, anger, but this reaction actually tightens your knots. Instead, if you just take a step back and try to understand what your mind is saying, try to realize what are you feeling, you might feel less stressed. If you become aware of your feelings, you might feel less angry. And in fact, you might also develop a courage to confront the boss or find a fruitful approach or a solution. So being mindful about the problem instead of putting a lot of efforts on solving it is the solution. So, what do you learn from Buddha's lesson today? Do let me know what are your learnings. Thank you.